attaching the aft deck beams to to the kayak. There we go. I'm just making sure things are working. All right, it seems everything is working. Okay, so it's been a little while since my last iteration of the build. And in the meantime, the reason for that is there's been a lot of kind of boring parts that I've been working on that have taken a lot of time. So I'll take you through a couple of things. First off, all of the stringers are now attached to the boat. So that means I have lashed every single, let's see if I can show it there. Every single frame is now attached to the chines and the gunnels all the way up and down the entire boat, as well as the 4 deck beams right here. What's interesting about these guys is they go and they dip right beneath the gunnel, so that the fabric is going to come right across here. They only go from frame 5 to frame 4. Sorry if I'm shaking the camera a little too much. Then I've also finished the stern. It is not pretty, but at least everything is lashed. So you can see here, these are the gunnels, and I believe in the last instance of these parts, I actually was attaching the gunnels to the stem. I've added the risers that they start at almost nothing, and they increase until they reach the top of the stem. And then on top of that, I added the top plate. And everything is, it looks a bit crazy because I've been really trying to lash everything. I haven't used epoxy anywhere or any screws to make any of these attachments, and the instructions were for using screws and epoxy. And so instead, since I've been using this stuff, the Lashing, it's been tough trying to figure out exactly where I should be drilling holes so that I can make the lashing work. So some of them have been working better than others, and you can see that here I kind of attached one to the other, but on the other side I did a better job of just having a cleaner attachment using the sinew. But it seems super strong, and this is going to be covered by the skin, so I'm not really that worried about the looks that much. Currently, I have, now here's the bow that I've been working on, same thing. I have in the bow, here's the gunnels attaching to the stem, and then I'll just try to put this here. There we go. The gunnels come and attach to the stem here, and then I have risers going down from nothing, sliding all the way to meet the top of the stem, and these are now attached. They are, I haven't attached them all the way in the back just yet, but soon. And so what's going to happen here is I will be shaving off this top right here, just enough so I can put the end plate, which I will get to show. Now here's the end plate. It's just this triangle. The end plate is going to sit. I'm going to have to take away enough so that the end plate can sit right there. And this is about 1/4 of an inch thick, so this will go down 1/4 of an inch so that can fit in there, sit there, and get attached to this bow. And once I do that, the bow will be officially done. So I have the bow to work on, and then what I'm currently doing is attaching the aft deck beams. Now this is the first time I'm using, for everything else I've been using Western red cedar, but for the aft deck beams as well as the floorboards, instead I will be using, there we go. Instead I will be using ash. What I've done for the ash is I had a very thick, big chunk of wood. I'm getting it right now. Here's the big piece. It was actually, I believe it was 6 or 8 inches thick. It was quite large. And from that, I stripped the pieces I needed. These are going to be 2-inch wide by 1/4-inch pieces. And this is a lot stronger than the cedar. The cedar bends very, very, very easily. Actually, you can't tell from here, but all the stringers bend very, very easily, and the ash does not. It's just a lot harder, and that's part of why that's what needs to be used here. So this is going to be used for, let's see, there we go. So ash is going to be used for these, I'm in the way of the light. Ash is going to be used for the aft deck beams. The reason for that is when you get in the kayak, this is where you would probably sit on the back deck to then slide into it. And then it's also going to be used inside the cockpit as the floorboards. So I will be probably sitting on this. I haven't decided if I'm going to be putting padding on it. I'm probably going to put a little bit of mini cell foam, just a very, very thin amount so that I can sit comfortably on it. And so it's going to be probably 2 or 3 planks, sorry, either 4 or 6 planks for the space under the seat, and then probably 2 to 4 pieces to go under my feet. I haven't decided on the feet. A lot of people don't put floorboards under their feet. They just let their feet rest right on the fabric. I feel like I'd rather have something to rest my feet on. So I haven't decided. So what I've done here, you know what? I'll go on the right spot. I'll take my sinew as well as the needle. And so what I've done there, I'll put all this stuff over. So what I've done here is I've cut these pieces to size. It's going to go between frame 5 and frame 6. And then I'm using little pieces that are considered cleats. So I'm going to attach small pieces of cedar to the frames so that the beams can rest on not only the frame, but the frame and another piece of cedar. So instead of being the thin frame, which is about, it's less than 1/2 inch, or maybe it's just about a 1/2 inch, it's going to also have the width of this extra piece. So I'm going to still attach everything with sinew. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have this cleat attached here and ready. I'm going to take these guys off. There we go. And I'm going to cut some holes. Sorry, so I'm going to drill holes into it so I can attach the cleat to the frame. So to do that,
I'm using a 1/8 of an inch drill bit. And like always, if you have any questions, please just type them into the conversation, and I'm going to be able to answer in real time. That's one of the nice things about live streaming. So I think what I'm going to do is go straight. I'm going to go straight through. Yeah. All right, there we go. So there's my 2 poles to attach. Maybe I should do, since this is going to take a little bit of weight, maybe I'll do a little more. I'll do 2. I'll do 2 poles each. I think that'll be good. And the reason I'm going with holes versus just tying the cleat to the frame is I want it to be in a very specific spot. I don't want it to move up and down at all. And I think if I tied it without the holes, it might move around, but I want it to sit specifically in that spot so that it does stay nice and high, and I can rest those beams right on it. Okay. Holes are sanded. I have everything I need except for my dowel to pull on the sinew, so I'm going to get that quickly. So it's been interesting. From the beginning, I thought I was really going to try to have as much of the build live as possible. And then as I got to the process of tying everything and lashing everything, it's just so time consuming that there's no way it's worth streaming that. It's just very, very tedious, hours and hours and hours of tying, and it looks great, it seems super strong, but I'll just tell you about it. I mean, I think the other pieces I've done and the other streaming episodes I've done, parts, whatever, they're not the most fun thing to watch, but at least you get an idea of how long some of the parts take, and you can also see me making mistakes, which is, I think, kind of fun, but it's very, very tedious. And once again, I chose to go with lashing it with artificial sinew because, well, one, it's more traditional than using screws, and epoxy. But it's also, I like the fact that if I had made a mistake anywhere, and I made several mistakes as I was tying this, you can just cut it and start over in that location, and you don't trying to pull apart something that you've already used, epoxy on is just absolutely impossible. That stuff dries so strong that it's done. Once it dries, it's over. So I really didn't want to make a mistake and then be stuck with the mistake. I really like the idea of being able to cut it, start over, and that was that. But so that's why I chose it. But it's really, really time consuming. Really time consuming. There'd be some nights I'd come down and spend a good hour or two tying, and it turned out I only did a couple of frames. I didn't really get that much done. But I'm extremely excited about the progress. It's looking really good. It's looking like a kayak, which is very exciting because at first when this stuff just is a pile of wood, it seems like the end is never in sight. And then after you get a couple of you get into it a little bit and you make some progress, all of a sudden it's really exciting. It starts looking good. Feels like the project is worth it, and you can actually see yourself being able to test it out in the water sometime soon. So, and as I mentioned before, for lashing, if you want some good tutorials, Kutsu from KutsuCrafts.com has some really great lashing tutorials on his site. They're videos, so you can really see what he's doing. So what I'm doing right now is I'm wrapping the sinew around this rod so I can pull. And once the sinew really tightens, it stays in place really well. And I'm just using a fabric needle to do the lashing. And that's one of the other positives of doing it is once you tighten it a bit, you don't need to hold it tight the entire time. The wax makes it get tight on itself. And it stays. This thing is going nowhere. So I'm estimating, I don't know how long it'll take me to get these boards on today. I'm thinking maybe an hour or two. And after that, once I work on getting the bow finished, that'll probably be another, I'd say, hour or two. All I have left is the floorboards, and then after the floorboards are done, I can officially take the frame off of the strong back, turn it upside down, and then lash the keel to all of the frames. When the keel is attached to all the frames, the frame is officially done, and I am going to be extremely excited and pleased at that point. But no, what's really good about that point is I got some pallet wrap, the entire thing, the entire frame, up in this, it's like saran wrap, just a little stronger and thicker. I'm going to wrap it up and then do a test. Get it out in the water, sit in it, look at the trim, see where I should exactly put the seats, etc., etc. And that's going to be an awesome step. I'm very excited to try to get that recorded on video because it's going to be an absolutely clear, see-through kayak at that point, wrapped in plastic. It's going to look awesome. And I'm going to sit in the kayak for the first time. So that's really exciting too. And like I said before, if there's any questions, please just type them into the conversation box so I can see them in real time. So what I'm doing here is just a regular hitcher's knot. I've done several times. I'm going to do about 6 of these, and then I'll end it with a stopper knot, a figure 8. Yeah, and what's really tedious is, so it's taken me, I don't know, how long has it been? 10 minutes maybe that I've been working on this one side of this cleat, and I have to do this 4 times. So I need to attach it here on the other side, and then I'll have to do the cleat on the other side as well. Okay. So that's tight there. So what I'm going to do now is a figure 8, and it is now attached. Maybe I should try getting the computer right here so we can have a close-up. I'll try doing that. Okay, so the first one is done. Let's see how close I can get to the knot tying. There we go. And like I said before, if there's any questions, please just type them in and I can answer. Alright, I'm getting the sinew as well as the scissors and the needle. Now I'll get that second one going. For each of these knots, I'm using about a wingspan, so that's around 6 feet length of the artificial sinew. I'll put it here. So I start, like always, with a figure 8 stopper knot. Make circle, cross over, go behind, pull, and there's my stopper knot. That's not going anywhere. Let's see if I can get the first one through without the needle. There we go. So like I said before, this here is frame 5. So this is going to be the back. I'm going to be sitting right in front of it. This is where my back is going to be. And then the aft deck beams are going to sit right on top of this cleat that I'm adding. This is red cedar, Western red cedar. This is the same material that I'm using for all of the stringers. And then that's attached to the frame so that the two of them can easily hold the weight of hold my weight when I sit on it to get in and out of the kayak. Although I am going to be using a keyhole somewhat. It's going to be a bit of an oval, egg shape really, if you will, cockpit. If I had gone for a true traditional ocean cockpit, then I would be sitting on the back deck a lot more than I think I will be. But I still... Oh, so what I've done now is I made a regular knot that attached to that stopper knot, and now I'm able to pull on that and use it as my starting point. That's not going to go anywhere. So if I had gotten a regular ocean cockpit, then I would be using this back deck a lot more. The ocean cockpit is it's pretty much a circle, and it's more traditional, but it's very hard to get into and out of. I wanted something that I have really long legs, and I wanted something that's a little easier to get in and out of. So I went with a cockpit that's more
it's something similar, more similar to what we use nowadays in modern kayaks. But I am trying to keep things traditional by lashing pretty much every part of this kayak. And like always, if you have any questions, any comments, you can make them live and we can chat while this is happening. Just type them into, there should be a text box right on YouTube that you can type questions into and we can chat live. Okay, so I've gone a couple of times through each hole. So what I'm going to do next is get my dowel and make it tight so that everything kind of locks into place. There we go. You gotta try to go as tight as you can without going too tight, because then you break it and it's a waste of time. You gotta either start all over, or if you consider it to be good enough to keep it. See, now in hindsight, here's the mistake I made. I should have made these holes inside of where this is going to go so that the deck beams don't actually sit on the sinew that I'm putting together. The other one is right outside of where it sits, so I'm going to be able to get the board to sit right there. But this one, I went a little over. That's all right. Right. I think that's good enough. I'm going to do the next pull. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to tie it off. So the way to tie it off again is I'm going to wrap it around itself. I'm going to find a spot. I'm going to go here where all of these guys cross. It'll be good for it to tighten itself. And then make a regular hitcher's knot there and pull. And you can see that it tightens a bit more by compressing these guys up top. So I'm going to do about 5 of these knots, and then I'll just put in a regular stopper knot so it doesn't come undone. And that'll be that. Alright, that's good. So there. Now I'm just going to add a stopper knot here. So another figure 8. Make a loop, go around, go behind, pull it through the hole, pull it through the loop, and then just slide it down so that it locks as close to the other knot as possible. I know that that is way too small to see, but that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, there we go. Where did I put the scissors? So now I'm just going to cut off the ends. There we go. This one can cut off too. And same thing over here. Done. This cleat is done and ready. You can release the clamp. There goes the top plate. Okay, so this cleat's not going anywhere. I can certainly put pressure on that. This is not going to move down. It's going to be held in place beautifully. So now, let's do exactly the same thing. I don't know how it's going to work with the light. All right. There we go. That should be all right. I'm going to do the same thing with the other cleat. That's going to come here. I'm actually going to go all the way around so that I'm not in the way of the light. Let's see if that works. One of the tough things about it is when I started the project, I had a lot more room here in the basement, and as the project has progressed, the kayak is taking more and more room, and I just have so much more stuff everywhere. Okay, so cleats, here it is. It's going to sit right there. I'm going to attach the clamp. There we go. You know what? I'll add these guys so I can get a good feel of where it should sit. There we go. That's good. It's flush and straight. I should move it just ever so slightly over. There we go. Okay. Now I just screwed everything up. Hey, at least I didn't get hurt. The other day, I kind of sawed into my finger a little. That was not fun. Japanese saw is extremely sharp and painful. I learned my lesson. Okay, so that is clamped well. Let's just double check. Yeah, that feels good. That feels good as well. That's flush. Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do now is just like before, I'm going to drill 2 holes and 2 holes so that I can then tie this off. And I have no power. Excellent. And with me, I just need to get around to the other side to plug the drill in. I don't remember when I unplugged it, but I must have stepped on it. I'm also going to get some juice for the computer so it doesn't cut out on me. There we go. Alright, time to drill some holes again. So this time I'm going to stay outside of where the beam goes. There we go. That's looking much better. This is still nice and flush. As long as I don't knock the computer over, we're in good shape. So I'm going to sand everything again. The reason I have my fingers wrapped up is this was actually really great advice from a couple of different people. When you're trying to sinew, it has a tendency of digging into your skin very easily as you pull it tight with each knot. So I've been wrapping my fingers, and that's been helping a lot. The next day I definitely don't feel it as much when I have a night of lashing. Okay, so these are ready. Wingspan. Yeah, if you notice, we're at 36 minutes of this live stream, and I'm just getting through. This is going to be my third lashing. It's a very tedious process. So I think what I'll do is, after this part, we'll see how long I get. I'm probably going to just let it run a little longer and then call it a night. I'll finish the bow, put that end cap on. I'll finish the floorboards, I'm guessing, and then I will, well, maybe I'll have an episode, like a quick one, on either the floorboards or lashing the keel, just because that'll be a big triumph of being able to pick up the frame for the first time and see what my weight is. I also measured in both directions, and right now I'm coming in at 22 inches beam, so across at the widest point, 22 inches. I was hoping to stay at 21, but it came a little bit wider. But that's not something I could alter. I would have to cut the frames a little bit thinner if I want it narrower, if I wanted the boat to be a little narrower. So I think for the next time I do one of these guys, I'll try to go a little narrower. I know that it will be good for it to be 22 because it's going to be stable, but I would like it to be, my rock pool's 21 inches wide. And I feel like that one still has, because of its shines, and still has very good stability. But because it's 21, it's tippy, and it's great for rolling. I'm really hoping this one, being so low to the water and with that really low back deck, it's going to be a blast to roll with, but we'll see. I'm hoping that the 22 inches are not going to be that big a deal, because my plastic Zephyr, I'm sure, was 23 maybe even more. I'll have to look that up. I don't remember how wide the Zephyr was. I'm sure it was much wider than this is going to be. So I'm thinking of painting it black, and I'm toying with the idea of having a really fun color for the bungee cords. I haven't decided yet what that's going to be. The runners are neon green, neon yellow, maybe red. That might look really cool as the boat being all black. I mean, black ones would look really good too, just because that would look very traditional, but there's something, if I'm going traditional in everything, why not just have one thing that's really fun? So I think that's what that's where the bungees are going to come in. and be really fun. I'm going to use 1/4-inch shock cord for the bungees. So once again, I did my stopper knot, I made another knot, I attached it, pulled, and then I started lashing. I've gone through several times, and now I did my first pull, so it should hold in this position well. Now I'm going to keep going for my second time around. So I've been doing that for most of my lashings. I'll go and do several stitches, if you will, so that it's in place and it has something to clamp down to when I do my first pull. There we go. One more here, and I think I'll go across again and do a couple more on the other side, and that'll be this lashing. I'm very hopeful also that the boat remains very light. That's one of the big reasons that I was thinking of doing this, was I wanted a really light boat that if I'm just going for a day paddle, if I want to play around, if I want to go rolling for a little while, it's very easy to throw it on top of the car, walk it down to the beach, all one-handed. And I figured this would be a great project, which it's turned out to be. It's tedious, but it's a lot of fun. And it's so exciting to think that hopefully, if all goes well, I'll be paddling in something I built. So I've done my 2 pulls. Now I'm going to find a spot, go under all of these guys here. There we go. Do another just regular hitcher's knot. I hope that's what it's called, because that's what I've been calling it this whole time. It's just a regular. It's a loop, and then I go from behind and pull. And I just do that on itself several times with a stopper knot at the end, which is just a regular figure 8. And that seems to keep everything really tight and tidy. There we go. One more. I've definitely gotten faster in my lashings. The first couple of frames took forever to lash. I was just learning. Got hurt a lot. At least my hands. Okay, so that's pretty good right there. So now I'm just going to do a stopper knot, loop, behind, forward, and through the loop. Slide it down. Yeah, I wish I could just fast forward to the deck beams. Okay, that's tight. So that's it for that one. What I'm going to do now is the next one. Once again, arm span. Sorry, not arm span. I'm going all the way across, so that's a wingspan. So around 6 feet. Like I said before, if there's any questions, please just type them into the conversation, into the chat room. There's my stopper knot, figure 8. And the needle is just so much easier to work with. Just a regular canvas needle. So now I went through, I'm going to do my regular knot, going around my stopper knot. I wish I had kept a log of how many hours this is really taking, because honestly, I have no idea how long this is taking. It's been several weeks that I've been at it, and some days I'm able to spend an hour or two, some days not at all, and I should have done a better job of logging it so that I could have an accurate account by the end. But hindsight, whatever the expression, 2020. I also wish I had done a time lapse of all the stages, but the truth is there's so much that goes into it now that the time lapse is the last thing I think of when I think, all right, I have an hour to come down here and work. I don't think, oh, I need to set all the cameras up and whatever. Although one thing that has been very useful is that the camera light, the light that I would use for filming, and I've been using all the time for the build just because it winds up being such a nice work light. Everything is super bright. I'm able to see the sinew really well. I'm able to follow what I'm doing. So it's been fun to kind of work as if this was a studio in my build. All right, so I've gone several times. I've done several stitches. I'm going to do my first pull. As always, around the dowel several times, and then I wrap it up and go down the dowel. There's my first pull. Seems to be nice and tight. I just dropped the needle. There we go. Okay. And here goes some more stitches. So what's funny is this part was supposed to be all about the the aft deck beams, and it's now been 48 minutes, and all I've done is attach the cleats. I haven't even attached the deck beams just yet. And this is kind of the way the project has been going. I would set up to do a part of it, and then the work for some other part of the project would just steal most of the time, and then what I had planned for that night wound up being the next day. Like, a lot of time goes into setup for each of these sections. The one before it taking a long time. Okay, so I'm done with my lashing here. I'm going to set up the dowel so that I can pull my second time. There we go. Alright, that's going to be tight. That's not going anywhere. And now I'm just going to set this up so I can make my knots and be done with it. I think maybe what I'll do is I'll just set up one of the back deck beams and call it a night. And I mean just one of the 4 corners of them. I don't think I'm gonna spend the time to go through it all because it'll take way too long. So once again, I'm at the stage where I'm just doing my hitcher knots. There we go. Once again, if you're going to be lashing, certainly wrap up your fingers. Trust me, it'll dig into your skin like crazy, and you'll feel it the next day, especially if you do it several nights in a row. You know what?
the heating's about to kick on. So I think maybe I'll just call it a night here. We're at 15 minutes anyway. I'm going to finish. There we go. I'm going to finish lashing the cleats to the frames. There we go. I'm going to finish lashing the cleats to the frame. And then as soon as that's finished, I'm going to take the aft deck beams, put them on, and lash those guys to the frames. So I will see you again soon. Thank you for watching with me.